So, hi, I'm here with Brooke McCarty-Williams, who's currently in France. And I want to ask you, as a mother, do you have like a motherly face that you show when your child is out of line?
Um, Actually, I don't know. Maybe like you know how when you get in trouble and you're with your mom, maybe it's like a eye thing,
Hmm.
like I'm like,
Okay, okay.
yeah,
So, because so whenever we're gonna talk about, or I will uh, by accident mention height, I want you to give me that face, okay? Because in every piece I've read about you, it was always like even in brackets, or they have to mention height. Why do you
yeah.
think that is?
I don't know. It's always been like that, honestly. Like ever since I was little, it was always, oh, she's only, well, when I got older, oh, she's only 5'4", or I think that it was bigger when I was younger. I haven't really heard it a lot in the recent years. I really don't know why it's a thing. I guess just because I'm small and I'm able to do whatever I'm able to do. So I mean, but it helps. Like it helps me. It's helped me when I've grown up and stuff because I've had little girls and little boys who come up to me and feel that they can achieve their dreams now because somebody short like them is playing and
Hmm.
do the things that I do. And so um at first I was kind of just like, what does it matter? Like, okay, I'm 5'4", what does it matter? But then once I started, the deeper meaning behind it and like the kids coming to me and things like that, I was kind of like, okay, well maybe that's, one of my purposes. Maybe that's why God has me doing what I'm doing because I'm able to show these little kids and, kids who aren't as big that they can still, achieve their dreams and do the things
Hmm.
that they want. So
Sure. Okay. So we've got that covered. That's behind us. Okay. So, in one of the older interviews or articles about you, I saw that you've mentioned two of your favorite things were power naps and shopping. Are those still two of your favorite things?
absolutely. I think that my power naps look a lot different now. And my shopping looks a lot different too, because I find myself not just, shopping for myself only and stuff like that. Like now I'm looking for my husband, I'm looking for my son and seeing what I can get them. So, they're definitely still two of my favorite things, but they just look a little different now.
Hmm. And can you describe the life, the week in the life of a mom and an athlete? How does it look like? Because it's obviously, I'm guessing you're one of the few players, if not the only player on your team, who is also a mom, right? So how does it look like?
So here actually we have here has been one of my busier schedules overseas. And so I'll give you like a typical day. So like
Okay.
today, or I'll give you a 2-day practice. So some days we have two-a-day practices, one in the morning at 10 to 12, and then one in the evening from like 4 to 6. But usually I'm waking up with my husband wakes up early, so he's the one that gets my son up and gets him ready, but he has to be at school around like 8:45. So pretty much we're up around 7 something, making breakfast and, being able to get my son ready for school and stuff, take him to school. And then right after that, I'm on my way to the gym. Because we have practice from, 10 to 12. I like to get there a little bit early, so I'm a little bit older now. And so after my 10 to 12 practice, I usually come home, eat some lunch, hang out with my husband for a little bit, and then I take a nap during that time. And then 3 to 4, I mean, I wake up at about 3 something and get ready to leave at like 3:30ish to be for practice from 4 to 6. And then usually, depending on the day or whatever, my son, school is long here for some reason. So my son goes to school from like 8:45 to 4:30 every day. And so when he gets out, my husband and them they'll come to the gym and watch me practice a little bit, and then we'll go home, make some dinner, hang out, play some games, watch some of his favorite shows, and I usually do bath time and stuff like that. So I give my son a bath and get him all ready for bed, and then we'll watch some more movies, and then it's time to go to bed and do it all over again.
Okay. That seems busy, right? Very, very busy. And what about game days?
Game day. So usually it depends on my like we have a game tomorrow. So my Friday game will look different than my like weekend game. So tomorrow I'll be able to do the same thing. I'll have like shooting at 11. But yeah, it's the same routine pretty much, but I'm able to kind of after I get done with my shooting, come home and take a nap for however long I want. And then get ready for the game. But on weekend games, usually my son will wake up and since I'll have a game or something, my husband will be up with them and they'll let me sleep in. And then I'll wake up, make breakfast and things like that, and then kind of get the day started.
Okay, I have to ask that question. Where did you find a husband like that, who just wakes up early and takes care of the kid, right? While you are able to do your thing. Where did you
Yeah,
find a guy like that?
a long time. We met in middle school, and we have grown up together. We have a schedule that kind of works for us. And so like he's more of a morning person than I am, and we kind of know that. And so he'll usually get up and let me sleep in because he knows I like to sleep in. And so other than that, like there's days that we'll switch off and things like that. So I mean, it's great that he's here because it makes life so much smoother and so much easier. And so yeah.
Okay. And how do you guys manage? Because life of a pro athlete, especially in Europe, is very uncertain, right? You one place you're here, next year you're somewhere else. So how do you guys manage like the everyday stuff, like school, I don't know, your husband's job and things like that?
So actually we have our own he has started our own business and so he runs that and so he's working pretty much throughout the day and stuff like that and so that's kind of easier to manage than if he was working for somebody. And school we kind of discussed that like obviously you're going to one place another each year. But we've kind of always been on the move, just from him being in the military and then us moving from Houston to, Virginia where he was stationed and then being overseas and stuff like that. So we've never really been stationary in our adult years. So that's kind of been our routine too, is like we're just kind of we know that we're traveling right now. And as far as school, so before I go anywhere, I always ask about school. I make sure that it's in my contract, because that's huge to me. Like, my son obviously is getting older, and so I want him to be in school. And for every place that I've been so far, like it's been fine. This is the only, well, I would say as he's gotten older, because last year he was when I was in Turkey, he was in a international school, so they spoke English. But here in France, I'm in a smaller city, and so they didn't really have an international school. So he's at an actual French elementary school. And
Hmm.
so he's starting to learn, the French words and things like that. It was harder at first, but now he's kind of adjusted. But I always make sure that that's in my contract. That's kind of non-negotiable at this point.
Awesome, awesome. And do you feel that you're like missing on some opportunities because of the fact that you settled down so early?
No, I never think about that. Like for me, I feel like whatever opportunity that I'm in, that's the one that I'm supposed to be in. I made the decision to become a mom. Well, me and my husband made the decision to become parents, and so I think that you know, at the end of the day, that's what I am. I'm a parent, and so whatever other opportunities are out there that maybe I missed out on or whatever, it's kind of like I probably wasn't supposed to be there anyway. It probably wouldn't have been a fit for my situation, as much as it would have been for somebody else's situation. And I'm okay with that.
Okay, because it's incredible how you guys like manage to do those things and just like focus on what you're doing, but also raise a child. That's like incredible. Okay, so let's take a step back for a moment. Clear
Mhm.
Springs High School in League City, Texas. What do you remember about your time in high school?
Uh,
Did you meet
it was
actually in that high school or did you meet earlier? Earlier, right?
my husband.
With your husband,
Yeah, we
yeah.
went to middle school.
Okay,
Yes.
middle school. Okay, okay.
Yeah, so we went back in middle school and we actually went to high school together too. Um, so yeah, what do I remember about Clear Springs? Oh my goodness. That was a long time ago. I was really a homebody in high school. If I wasn't at his football games or at with him, I was, in the gym or I was at home, or spending some time with friends, but I didn't really do a lot. Like I was home a lot because I was really focused. And not to make it all about basketball, but I was really focused on being able to get to the next level because I knew that my mom couldn't afford college. And so I think that for me during that time, I was, super focused on being able to make sure that like I was having the best games that I could. I was being able to be in the best shape. I was being able to, kind of keep on and keep on rolling and, being able to be accessible to these schools or, just whoever would want me to come to their school and being able to, be ready for that.
Hmm. And
So I think
can
a lot of my time was focused on that.
okay, and uh, it's interesting if I may just if I may pose that question, how hard is it to grow up with somebody, meaning your husband, and like adjust to the person that they are becoming? You know what I mean? Like I've been married for 15 years, something like that. I've been with my wife for 15 years, and we've been
Nice,
married for like
congratulations.
10. Yeah, thank you. But I'm saying that because people change with time, right? And how, what's your secret to adjusting to that?
Honestly, I think that if you're growing as a person and individually, I think that we have to understand that like, we are individual people and we met at such a young age that we still had a lot of growing up to do. We still had a lot of maturing to do. And there was times where we may have bumped head, but at the same time, like we are still growing, even though we're now 29. Like I've known him since I was 13. And so, who he was, who I was back then is not who we are now. And I think that that's the point of life. That's the point of like growth. That's the point of, maturing. But also like in some ways we still are that same, that couple who was, young and love and, happy, being able to laugh and things like that. Like a lot of our traits are still the same, but we've grown into, being married, being adults, being, parents. Like I think that those are all stages that you have to understand. Like he might have different parenting styles than me. He might have different, traumas that he comes from than me. I might have different things that, hit me later in life than it does. We just have to kind of be able to roll with, whatever comes in life and kind of accept that growth. And I think it's cool. It's like meeting a new person or like not a new person, but like, okay, you used to like this, now you like this, and this is how your mind has changed. Like, okay, now like let me learn you from here. And I think that a lot of times, people see that as like them growing apart, like, oh, well, that's not what you used to like, or whatever the case may be. But I think that that's something that, people don't understand is that's somebody that you get to learn now. And so you keep learning, you keep growing. And I think that at the end, it's like, if you keep doing that, then you'll never get tired of each other. You'll never, that love will never die. So
Okay,
yeah, it's
awesome,
pretty cool.
awesome, awesome. Thanks for sharing that. So I want to return to basketball, maybe to the more down to earth stuff. So you were number 11 recruit in the country and sixth among guards. And I want to ask you, how were you recruited? Who recruited you? And why did you decide to eventually stay in Texas?
So our recruitment was a lot different back in the day. Back in the day, like I'm just old, but it looked a lot different than it does now. And so being recruited, I was recruited at tournaments that we went to. In the States, we have a lot of AAU and things like that. So that's mainly a lot of the times where I was recruited. A lot. Some coaches came to my high school. So it just kind of depended on, where I was at the time or what was going on at the time. But a lot of my recruitment came from in the summer, when the coaches are able to come and look at us during those, viewing tournaments and things like that. Um, as far as who recruited me, a lot of schools recruited me. And so I could have went wherever I wanted. If looking back at it, I could have went wherever I wanted. And ultimately I decided to stay in Texas because at the time I wanted to go to LSU. at first. And that was because my coach that I had at Texas, Coach Travis, he was at LSU first, and I really wanted to play for him. And so he ended up getting a job change and he went to Texas. And so that's when Texas kind of came into the mix. I never really wanted to go to Texas at first. Just because at first I thought it was too close to home. Like I was never really a Longhorn fan like that. And then when he went there, I was like, you know what? Okay, maybe I might become a Longhorn. And then actually I knew a lot of the girls who were already on the team at Texas, and then me and Ariel kind of talked about going to Texas and things like that. So there were a lot of factors that kind of led me to changing my mind to go to Texas.
Yeah, so actually, my next question was supposed to be about Ariel Atkins. So your relationship started at AAU, and you guys also went to Texas together, right? So how did you bond together as teammates, but also as people?
Well, actually, we actually didn't start to know each other during AAU. So our
Okay.
two high schools, she was from Dallas, I'm from Houston, and so our high school was one of the top basketball schools in Houston, and hers was the top one in Dallas. And so we always met each other somehow in some type of school tournament, and so we kind of knew of each other over the years. But as you know, it came time to choose if we were going to go to college together or whatever. That's when we kind of, formed that bond of like, hey, are you thinking about going to Texas? We've been competing against each other all these years. And so it just kind of seemed like the perfect fit. Um, and so to your question, it was, what was the bond?
Yeah, how did you form that bond?
Oh, okay. So yeah, it was just because we honestly had been playing against each other, and there was a lot of respect for each other when we would play and for their team and stuff like that. And so I think that's what kind of started it, which is just a respect factor. And then after that, we got to play in AAU together, and we just kind of clicked, and it was kind of just up from there.
Okay. And I also want to ask you about the 2017 season because
Mhm.
you were not only awarded the All Big 12 Player of the Year award, to which I will get to in a moment, but maybe something that seems more important, although that is more important, even though it doesn't seem like it, is the Judy Dunn Award. I think
Mhm.
it's like it may be a bigger deal. Can you tell me more about that award and its significance?
Yeah, so it's basically and I don't want to mix up my words here because I haven't thought about it in a long time, but
Mhm.
it's basically for someone who wants to teach or who wants to inspire the youth in basketball or whatever,
Or
just help them,
coach, yeah, something like that. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
something like that.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, I was able to receive that award. I think my biggest thing is always like I didn't have someone who I looked up to like in the basketball world as far as when I was growing up. Like, yes, we had a lot of great players and stuff, but there was not just one person that I was kind of like, okay, I want to be just like her or, whatever the case may be. And so for me growing up, it was kind of like I want to be that person for some other little girl or little boy or whatever the case may be. Like I want them to look at me and know that like, okay, if I ask her this or if I'm accessible to them, Um, and so when I received that award, it was pretty cool because I never seen myself as being a coach. But I was always like I would train little kids or, I would help them in certain situations or like if kids ask me like, hey, like how do you do this or whatever, like I liked being that person for them. And so being able to receive that award was pretty cool just because like that was stuff that I did on my own time. It wasn't something that I really just, spoke about openly all the time. And so for them to see that in me was pretty cool.
Yeah, and as you've said, you're doing it even now, right? When like people actually meet you, which is also cool.
Right.
So did you change your stance on being a coach in the future now?
Actually, no, I want to be a coach in some aspects. So I train girls when I go home when I have time for the summer and stuff like that. And I really enjoy it. And actually when I was pregnant, I was coaching out in Virginia where my husband was stationed, and I loved it. It was just like a different side of like competitiveness, but like not being on the floor. And so I think I might get into it after in some way after I'm done. So
Okay, okay. Let's also maybe redirect our attention to the Big 12 Player of the Year award.
mhm.
How did it feel to get that award? And was it like validation? Was it a sense of relief that people noticed you? How did you feel about that award?
I think it was just I was overwhelmed with emotions. Like, I think I was surprised, not in the sense of like that I didn't think that I could, because I know that I was killing it, and I know that like I put in all this hard work. I had been working so hard for not that, just for myself, just to be the best that I could be. Um, and so, in college, I never really thought about the awards and never really like paid attention because I was just wasn't my, it wasn't my focus. But when I was able to receive that award, yeah, I was just overwhelmed with emotions at first. And I was, it kind of did give me like a sigh of relief, I guess, just because like my hard work was noticed. And all those nights in the gym, things like that, would seem to pay off. But like after that, I think that what a lot of people don't understand is the other side of that. And so now that I was able to receive that award, I felt like after I had to be like perfect. Like I couldn't turn the ball over. Maybe if I missed one shot, I would it be in my head more. Things like that. And so I think that, it was a high and a low. But obviously more high than low, but still it's people don't really talk about, the aftermath of certain things. It's just kind of like, without doing it on purpose, you're kind of putting this pressure on yourself to be this perfect basketball player when you weren't perfect that year. So, but all that goes out the window. And so I think that it was just a rush of emotions. Like I was high, I was low, I was high, but like it's still one of my greatest accomplishments. So because the Big 12 was so tough that year, those years. And so to be recognized, is pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah. So, what made you more emotional, getting that award or having your grandmother sing the national anthem on senior night?
I don't know. They both had a big impact on me. So
Okay, but I mean, it wasn't like she did it the first time, right? She already did it in high school. Was it that your senior night in high school? She also sang the national anthem?
maybe, maybe she did. I honestly cannot remember.
Okay.
She did she? Goodness, I
I
don't know. Maybe
I found that information. I don't know, maybe somebody just,
I'll say, well, maybe she did. Sorry, Grandma, but yeah, maybe she did. But be her. That's her thing. She likes to sing. She's always been, singing and things like that. And so it was cool to have her at some of my, biggest like moments, being able to be there for me in that aspect. So it was pretty nice.
yeah, yeah, it sounds really cool. Okay, so you finish your college career, and what happens next? Are you like immediately thinking about turning pro, or what was going on?
So actually, once I graduated, well, I had to come back to graduate. So the draft happened and I didn't get drafted. But I got a training camp offer.
Mhm.
And so I went to training camp actually before I graduated. And so yeah, towards the end of my college career, it was pretty much like whatever the next move was where I had to be. So I was packing to go, to training camp and stuff like that. So I went straight to LA before I was able to graduate. Yeah.
Okay, so your first training camp was with the Sparks?
Mhm.
Okay, okay. And when did Dallas call you about the training camp that eventually got you the job in the WNBA?
So it was beginning of 2019, I'm thinking. Whenever all of the free agency things were going on,
Mhm.
it so happened that the coach from LA had moved to Dallas. And so he ended up giving me a call when I was overseas, and asking me if I wanted to come into training camp.
Okay, but it was already after your time in the Finnish league, I
Yes.
think,
So
right?
it was
Yeah.
during the time.
So it was Finland, and then it was the WNBA and the Wings. Okay.
Yes.
So they noticed you playing in Finland, or was it only the relationship with the coach that got you there? Do you think that they were also
Um,
monitoring the way you played?
I'm actually not sure, but so I didn't really have like a close relationship with the coach. It was
Mhm.
just from being in training camp. I guess I was, doing what I was supposed to be doing, and I guess I put myself on their radar. And so when I got cut in LA,
Mhm.
it was towards like the end when the cuts were winding down. And so I guess that maybe, they just were, it was LA was a stacked team that year. And so I don't even know if any of us in training camp made the roster, but they were a stacked team. That's when they had like Candace, they had Chelsea Gray, they had, Odyssey, everybody, NECA, all of them. So that was a hard roster to make. But, if you go in and compete and, you're just there to learn and stuff like that, I think that, that's a big thing for rookies to understand. Like, just go compete and have fun and you soak up all the knowledge that you can. And that's what I did. And I think that, I was able to learn and grow in that time. And so maybe that's what they held on to, honestly. I'm not too
Okay.
sure if they were watching me overseas, but yeah, I think it was probably just the impact I made during training camp.
Okay. Because you're a bit humble here, if I may, because in the Finnish league you led the league in assists. You were the 3 point percentage leader. You were the champion. So doing what I was supposed to do, as you've said, it's like kind of downplaying what you actually achieved there, especially considering that you had to move from Texas all the way
Yeah.
to the other side of the globe to Finland. So what was that experience like, and how long was the adjustment period when you moved from Texas to Finland?
Honestly, it was a huge adjustment for me. Like I said, like I'm a homebody. And I don't like being away from family. I don't like being away from, my husband, stuff like that. And so for me, that leading up to being in Finland was already like I had some agent issues, and things like that. So I was kind of already on edge. And so how I ended up in the Finnish league, it was just kind of weird, and it was just a whole thing. And so but when I got there, I knew I was supposed to be there. Like my teammates that my two American teammates that I lived with, like we clicked instantly, and they're still my good friends to this day. And so they actually made the transition a lot smoother, because when I was coming there, like I'm coming from hot and 100 degrees to below zero and snow, no light, things like that. So for me, it was a huge adjustment. One, I didn't bring the proper attire at all. Um, I didn't have like big winter coats and stuff because we just don't have those in Texas. And so when I got there, I had to do a lot of shopping to get some clothes that were, suitable for the weather. And then, but once I got on the basketball court, it was fine. Basketball I feel like is a way to connect anywhere. And so, once I got on the court and I was able to, know my teammates and know my roommates and know where I was at, I was able to adjust a lot quicker. But I was sleeping a lot. So over there, I was sleeping like 10, 12 hours a day because we had like one practice and it was like for an hour, we play 5-on-5. And then we have our game during the week. And
Mhm.
so that was kind of my adjustment, was just, getting there and having to kind of just see where I am and just understand that, like, now it's my job. So I have to, perform. I have to be here. I have to do that. And, if I want to go home, I can go home, but we're here. So be here.
Yeah. And what was your most memorable international experience so far when it comes to the places that you've played? Maybe off the court, not on the court, because on the court, I mean, just looking at the stats, your career stats, you're killing it everywhere you go. So maybe off the court, what was memorable?
I would have to say my time in Sweden and my time in Mexico. I say Sweden because I stayed there for 2 years, and it was merely off of the fact that like I loved my teammates, my Swedish teammates and my American teammate. those are my girls. I still talk to them to this day. Like that bond that we formed over those 2 years, and really our first year going in, and then the second year was just even better. And from the staff to my coaches to our whole just organization, like I don't think that I could have gotten a better organization or better people to be around. And I was a new mom coming into that, and so I think that my most memorable moment was when I was first coming back my first year. My coach Robin, I had an agent at the time who, we just weren't seeing eye to eye. And so he told me, maybe when you get on the phone with this coach, don't tell him that you have a child. And I was like, don't tell him that I have a child. Like, what do you mean? Like that doesn't even make sense, because my son is coming with me. And so he was like, well, yeah, just don't bring it up. So I was like, okay. So I ended up getting on a phone call with my coach, Robin, and I was like, my agent said I wasn't supposed to say this, but are you okay with me bringing my child? Because if not, then I think that maybe like this is probably not going to be for me. And he was like, what? He was like, I think that you would be better if you brought your child. And it just kind of opened my like, I had so much respect, I had so much like, it kind of, as a mom, it makes you feel like okay, like that's out of the way, you know what I mean? And I was new at it too, so I didn't really know how to communicate like, hey, like I was still kind of trying to step on toes. I wanted to play, but I knew that like it would look a little different with my son.
Mhm.
um and so I think that moment was kind of like what sealed the deal for me of like, okay, they care about me as more than just a basketball player. And obviously they don't know me. I'm coming in and it's what you can do, but when I got there, the energy didn't change. Like they made sure my son was good at all times. They made sure, if I needed to bring him here or do this, like my teammates interacted with him so much. It just made me feel like welcomed in a whole different place with a whole like new 1 year old. And so I would say that was probably one of my favorite, off the court. Like if I could give people an insight into that, like if I should have just took a camera around and showed like everything that went on. But it's just one of those things where you're a part of a great organization. So I think that was probably like my most memorable favorite moment.
Yeah, it's interesting if there's a thing in women's basketball like workplace discrimination when it comes to women with children. If I don't know what's the legal side of it, if you could actually sue a team for not getting you a job, but that would probably label you as, that player, that she's a troublemaker because she's like willing to sue. Like nobody likes that. But it's
Yeah.
good that they actually were cool with that. Okay. And I also want to ask you because, well, you're young, but
Mhm.
you are 28. When it comes to sports, that's like, let's say, you're like in the middle of your career, right?
Right.
So your first step and overall quickness remain lethal. So how do you do it? How do you keep that quality?
Honestly, I haven't changed anything. Like I'm a little bit older, and it's funny that you say that. Like I'm in my prime because my agent says that too. But like I feel like a granny now, like compared to all of these kids coming in and stuff like that.
But that's the case
Um,
in Europe, right? Because in Europe, usually players stop playing when they like graduate from university. They don't
yeah,
have time to play and they just focus on jobs. Yeah.
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 And so I'm feeling it now, but I just haven't changed much. Like I'm grateful that I'm still able to do the things that I'm, doing. And I think that it's just I don't know, I think it's just how I am as a player. Like my first step hasn't changed much. Obviously I can see some things where I'm like, oh, okay, that was different, but but yeah, I haven't changed much. It's just I guess it's just stuff that I practiced over the years, and so I think once you get something down in your game, that's kind of like what your go-to is. And so when you do your go-to over and over and over, it's kind of remains the same.
Okay. Okay. And the last question I have is what are your plans for the immediate future? Because currently you're in La Roche in
Yeah.
France, and what's next? Do you already think about next season or you're just taking things as they come?
I think I'm a bit both. Because obviously, like my situation is a little bit different. So I do think about the future, and my son and like, him being away and things like that. And so I'm trying to take it day by day, but it's coming a time where it's about to hang the shoes up, maybe in like the next year or two. So yeah, I'm looking forward to those times too.
Okay, okay. Well, okay. That sounded a bit sad. Uh,
No, it's not sad. I played
I
a lot of
mean,
basketball, okay?
okay, okay. Yeah, yeah. Okay. But you had like a yearly break. Well, 2 years, 2 year break actually. Like,
Yeah.
yeah. Oh, I
I
forgot. Yeah, one thing I
loved it.
wanted to ask you also, how did you return to basketball form after having your son?
Sheesh. Well, it was honestly, it wasn't too bad for me. I only gained 20 pounds, and it was just all belly. So pretty much a lot of me stayed the same. It was just, getting my stomach and things like that back in shape. And but like I said, like I enjoyed my time off. And so I actually took the time to get myself, I didn't force myself if I was, because my son was still in his early stages and things like that. So that was kind of more important to me at the time. And so if I was too tired from being up all night with him, I didn't force myself to go to the gym. I didn't force myself to work out. I just kind of let it come. And I think that that was better than me, trying to, okay, handle all of this, but then also force myself to be here when I'm maybe too tired or maybe not really feeling it, things like that. So I wouldn't have gotten the best results out of that. And so I just let it took me probably about maybe 5 or 6 months to get back to like being in shape. And because during my pregnancy I didn't work out either. Like I walked with my husband, but like I wasn't like running or jogging, nothing like that. And so I gave myself about 5 or 6 months, and I think it would have been quicker if I, really pushed to be like, okay, I have to be done by this time, do this, I think it would have been quicker, but I think that my body needed to, mentally and physically be
Mm-hmm.
able to meet each other in the middle. So I was keeping my mental and my physical at the same level instead of maybe my physical being here, my mental being here.
Okay.
And so I think that really helped me. So I think that it was just taking care of myself, honestly, and giving myself the grace, knowing that I had a child who was under one, and I was trying to get back in shape and things like that. And I didn't want to rush it and things like that. So I just gave myself the time that I needed.
Okay. Thank you, Brooke, for taking the time to talk. And well, good luck in your future endeavors, whatever they may be. Awesome.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
having me.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.